Hello and welcome to the preview of our round 7 clash against the West Coast Eagles, which resulted in a comfortable 108-point win against West Coast at Optus Stadium on Saturday evening. I don't want to appear ungrateful at all in this preview. Because this is the first time ever in the history of this channel, which is now going 5 years, that I have ever seen, or any Carlton supporter in that time has been privy to such a demolishing. So to celebrate that, there you go. What does it mean? What does it mean? I don't know what it means. That was arguably worst opposition that I can remember apart from us under Mick Moldhouse, and then in the second or third year of Brendan Bolton's tenure at the football club. That's how bad the West Coast Eagles are. Do I feel sorry for them? No. Do I have some empathy for them? A little bit. Because it wasn't that long ago we were that. They were insipid, and I mean insipid. So I don't know what it means for us, because we've actually never been in this position before where we've been able to just completely, and I mean completely, humiliate another football team. So that brings I wouldn't say a great deal of satisfaction, but it certainly probably shows us that we are potentially a little bit better than what I thought. Potentially. I'm saying potentially. But I can't get away from how bad that football team were on Saturday night. And the fact we did it on the road is probably a positive. On their ground is a positive, but they were so far away from being a competitive AFL football team. I sort of don't know how to deal with this. Other than in isolation, it was a terrific performance by our football club, and it has to be acknowledged as such. In isolation, I'll repeat that, it is a terrific performance by our football club, which has to be acknowledged at this point in time. But moving forward, I just cannot get a read on that. I would like to think, in the scheme of things, although the margin was great in regards to its enormity, 108 points, and that is a big margin. I think it's a small win in the scheme of things, a small win. I would like to think, and I am not comparing ourselves to the Geelong Football Club or any club for that matter, but it kind of reminded me of the Cats in 2007. Now, they were a little bit more advanced. When I say they were a little bit more advanced than us, they went into that 2007 season with a great deal of expectation on them. They missed the finals in 2006, but they played finals previous to that. So we can't compare ourselves to that because we haven't been there yet. All right, we haven't been there yet. But it just reminded me of Geelong in 2007, where they were underperforming in the first part of that season, and in fact, they'd lost the three of their first six games. And there were a lot of questions being asked of Bomber Thompson, a lot of questions. And then they faced Richmond at the Telstra Dome, and they kicked 35 goals, 12. Unbelievable kicking, 222. They defeated Richmond that day, 9-11, and Richmond were putrid, and I mean putrid. But that win for the Cats, and no one even thought at that time, they just looked at that result, that 35-12, and just thought that was just how poor Richmond were. But to be able to win the way Geelong did, and then looking back at history, they were able to then just find their mojo, and everything clicked after that. Everything clicked after that game for the Cats. So maybe it was there before that, and maybe that side knew. I think they went on to lose one more game that year. That was in the final round of the year against Port Adelaide at home, and then obviously smashed Port Adelaide in that 2007 grand final to win their first flag since God knows how long. It had been a huge drought. Not saying that's us, but that's, I suppose, the potential of a win such as that. That was huge. And shit teams, and I mean shit teams, poor teams, don't win like that regardless of how poor the opposition is. So it needs to be acknowledged. But I don't know. I don't know what this means. I'm just thinking about what it could potentially do. You look at those disposals, 165 more disposals we had than the Eagles, and our I suppose our disposal efficiency was close to 80%. Now that means the opposition really, they were poor and weren't really up for the fight on Saturday night. And I look at that marks inside 50 as well. We took 29 more marks inside 50. Now, we were allowed to play a little bit bolder, a little bit more proactive, get more speed on the ball, which enabled us to get the ball inside forward 50. But to take 29 more marks inside our forward 50, the opposition's 4, that is unheard of. 29 more marks. And Charlie Curnow's a brilliant footballer, and Harry's a brilliant footballer, but that's not going to happen again. Not against the best. Not against the best. And 137 marks to 57 overall, and we even out-tackled that mob. We had 165 more disposals, and we out-tackled them, which is a tick. That's a tick. 83 tackles to 61, and we led for the whole game, 122 minutes and 32 seconds for a 108-point win. I'm kind of glad with the subplot of Charlie. Kind of glad that we didn't go all Charlie Curnow-centric in that last, say, 15 minutes of that final term. Our last 5 goals came from, in fact, our last 6 goals, Charlie kicked his 9th. Then it went Chera goal, Cripps goal, Kemp goal, Kennedy goal, Jack Silvani goal, Corey Durden goal to finish off the game. I am really glad from a team perspective, because I wanted to steamroll that mob in the air. I just wanted that to be the biggest margin possible. One, we've never done it before. Okay, in in recent times, and the ability to just put the foot to the throat and make opposition fans feel like we've been in the past. Yeah, I did take a lot of pleasure out of that. But I like the fact that we didn't lair eyes in trying to get Charlie his 10th, and it was all about what it felt like the team and sharing that ball around, and those individuals who I have question marks on, quite a few of those opportunities to score goals. You look at Kennedy, Chera, Cripps. I think they're midfielders our midfielders haven't kicked goals this year, so maybe that's a confidence thing now. Jack Silvani got his third goal. Kemp got his first goal in AFL football. And obviously Corey Durden, as a small forward, got a goal. And it wasn't just, I know it was hard to get away from Charlie, but I like that, because that could have been, if we started to lair eyes and started to, I wouldn't have liked that. I'm not saying they weren't looking for him, but I like the fact that we took our opportunities in front of goal in that last quarter and not make it a sideshow. I like that a lot. I really did. So that's a big tick as well. So I suppose the theme out of this, guys, is what can a big win such as that potentially do against poor opposition, admittedly, for our confidence? I did mention in my review of the St Kilda game last week that we wait for change. We will wait for change, and are we capable of change? Of course, every team, coaches, players, that connection between the two is capable of change. And will we look back at this game? There's a big part of me says no, just based on how poor the Eagles were. And I don't necessarily think it was just us being that superior, which makes it pretty dire for West Coast, where they're at. But there was something there in that performance. There was something in that performance that must give us some real confidence to take that in against better opposition. And I'm glad we face better opposition this Friday night in the Brisbane Lions. But I don't still think, although they are one of the benchmarks, I think we get them at home rather than at the Gabba. I think being at the Gabba would have been a bigger test for us. But we get them at home, but that's going to be something we can all look forward to, because I'm still not convinced. In fact, I'm not convinced at all. But it was in isolation a really, really pleasing and enjoyable night for us to watch that unfold, and full credit to the players and the coaches responding after 2 losses. Yeah. So quickly, backs didn't have a lot to do. Pretty solid. Oscar Allen got away from Lewis Young a couple of times in that last quarter, which, I don't think he can afford to do that. Wiedering was solid. Played most of the night on Jack Darling, who had no influence. Really impressed with Brodie Kemp's game, but what an easy way to come in, really, and just find your way. He's still got a lot to prove. McGovern didn't have to do much. Chincotta, that's his second game now and shows a fair bit, like the way he moves. Sard was really good until he went off. Ake is just huge. Really controlled that wing. Thought he was one of our best. Cripps, really good as well. Hollands, interesting one. I feel Cottrell will be the one. to take his spot. I don't feel it will be O'Brien. I think it will be Cottrell. I think Hollins is probably now due for a bit of a spell. I think, I feel that we need to probably get that other wing against the more experienced sides sort of settled now. So I feel Cottrell will come in and take Holland's spot, whether that's this week or the week after. Walsh, pretty serviceable. Durden did a couple of nice things. Jury's still out. Silvani kicked 3 goals. Jury's still out. Honey kicked a goal. Jury's still out. Charlie Curnow, magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. Just his work rate. I mean, some of the vision of him being molested and the amount of leads and trying to create that space with body contact and just outworking his opponent. And admittedly, they weren't great defensively, the Eagles. But to kick 9, Harry, okay, he was probably played a more selfless role. Pitnet, I mean, people are applauding, fans are applauding Mark Pitnet like Polly Farmer after that game. I mean, please, let's just wait. With Big Mark Pitnet. Yeah, sure, hit outs to advantage. He does that quite well, but he's limited, very limited, but let's just wait and see. Hewitt found a little bit of form. Chera been superb. Even when we were a little bit down over the last couple of weeks, he's been the one to put his hand up. He's had a really good season. Doherty, great to see him back. Newman, good again. Fisher, still question marks, but finding the ball. And Ed Curnow as well. Yeah, okay. He was serviceable, but obviously Jury's still out as well. Anyway, guys, enjoyable night at the office for the Blue Baggers, but let's just cool our jets.